Let me ask you, because Mr. Barton was asking you some questions about the loan guarantees at Solyndra. When you came to us in November of last year, it seemed to be news to you that there were postponement of layoffs that occurred at the company, those postponements to take the layoffs past Election Day before they were announced. And you seemed to be surprised that that had in fact occurred. And I think, if I recall correctly, you said you were going to look into that. So can you share with us the results of your investigation, what information you've uncovered as to why those layoffs were postponed past the Election Day?
We turned the matter over to the IG, the Department of Energy ID, and they're looking into the matter, and when they tell us what they find, we could share that with you.
Well, I pray that you do, but so far, have you identified any of your staff at Department of Energy that were involved in making that decision?
No, as I said, we turned the matter over to the IG, and so that it's an independent look at what happened.
Have you yourself been interviewed by the Inspector General on this issue?
No, I have not.
Have you been informed that that's likely to happen?
No, I have not.
Are you willing to talk to the Inspector General about this?
I've always cooperated with the IG.
Let me ask you a question about the Allison report. And Congressman Barton was asking about the watch list. Can I just ask you, and I respect the fact that you're concerned about some proprietary issues, but would you provide to the committee or committee staff this watch list, provide the copy of the list to the committee?
Well, actually, I was slipped a note and I misread it. It appears as though the committee staff, this committee staff, will be getting a briefing from Richard Kaufman, my special advisor, next week on this, on the loan program and the Allison.
Is that the full committee staff or just the Democratic staff?
I think it's the committee staff, the full committee staff.
May I ask, as a member of the committee, then, that you would have your guys bring that list to that briefing?
Well, we will do what we can, but again, we're going to give you a briefing.
We need your commitment, sir, that
Right.
we will be able to see that list, because it is important as far as congressional oversight on this process going forward.
Well, as I
we
said,
can all be criticized about the way things have been handled so far. I'd like to be able to stop the bleeding at some point. So let me just ask you for your commitment to make that list available to the staff.
we have to look at, again, we don't want to violate the company confidentialities. The dynamics of what happens to these companies changes very rapidly. And so it's again, part of our loan risk.
If I may, sir, the taxpayer has taken a pretty bad hit on this. And while I want the companies to do well, I think at some point we may have to put the taxpayers' needs and wants ahead of those of the companies. Again, I cannot see a reason why you could not bring that list. And I, for one, as a committee member, am going to be expecting you to bring that list. Let me ask you a question. You had... the chief financial officer of your department, Department of Energy, had produced a report on uncosted balances in 2010. And just in the purpose and the background notes at the beginning of this report, it said your approach was developed in '96 in response to GAO criticism that the department did not have a standard effective approach for identifying excess carryover balances that might be available to reduce future budget requests. To address this concern, you established percentage thresholds. So where are we with that? Are you prepared to produce for this committee those numbers on that met that percentage threshold that might be available to offset the numbers you're requesting in your budget?
Yes, we've been working very aggressively at reducing these uncosted balances in the last several years.
Well, the GAO estimated that this current fiscal year it's in excess of $680 million from carryover programs. What's your justification for asking for funding increases in programs with significant carryover balances?
I believe the lion's share of that amount has to do with a program with carbon capture sequestration, which means that you, according to the statute, we need a significant private sector investment over matching funds of over half. And some of that has not materialized because if we have an uncosted balance because the private sector doesn't want to co-invest, there's not much we can do about that.